the middle is spoiling us with cameos. The previous episode, we had Betty White, and with this episode, the first episode of Season 2, Back to School, directed by Wendey Stanzler, we have Doris Roberts, which I'm very excited about. As always, I will go through what happens in the episode and share some thoughts, so there will be some spoilers from now. And needless to say, the main theme is going back to school. And I'll talk about Brick and Doris Roberts' character last, because I guess I have the most to say there. It starts off with everybody trying to get ready for school. Brick left a sandwich from last year in his backpack, which is revolting. Sue is still doing cross-country. I like the fact that they didn't forget about that from the previous episode. And they missed the bus. And what I loved, this is the first scene, and what I loved is that as soon as they left, Frankie remarked, "How many days till summer?" And that seems like a pretty reasonable question. They spend the entire summer wishing the kids would go back to school to get out from under their feet. And now they're back to school. They're desperately wishing for a break, which I just think is very realistic. And Frankie actually vows to get on top of everything this year. So she devises this chart and she makes Axel get up early. We don't have that much of a narrative with Axel here. It's mostly just him waking up early and occasionally being awake in the middle of the night doing things he probably shouldn't be doing. It's fine. It's nice to have some involvement with Axel, but there's not too much there. Sue got her check for her cross-country sweatshirt, which she's wearing a lot. And, well, Brick got a new backpack. It didn't go to plan. I'll talk about that in a moment. Sue's cross-country sweatshirt, I have to say I love the colour of it. I absolutely adore the colour of it. It's a gorgeous yellow. And she's so proud of it, she refuses to take it off, even when it's a really hot day. And she is clearly baking hot, and she ends up fainting. And she does this just as the cross-country team and everybody else, they're all running out into the gym, and they burst through, and there's like glitter or confetti everywhere, and they all tumble to the ground. It's very in keeping with Sue, but she gets to wear her cross-country sweatshirt, so she's pretty happy. I thought that was a nice start for Sue to start the school year feeling proud of her achievements. So, well done, Sue, but maybe take it off if it gets a little bit hot. Then we come to Brick. Brick was devastated that his backpack had to be thrown in the bin because he says it's like his best friend. I guess the message there is don't leave a mouldy sandwich in your best friend over summer because it might end up going in the trash. And Frankie begins to worry that Brick's quirky behaviours are maybe going to cause some problems in school. And because she's determined to get on top of everything this year, she decides that they will call the school first. Instead of waiting for the school to call her and Mike in to have a conversation about Brick, she gets ahead of the game, and there we meet Doris Roberts. She is, of course, playing Ms. Rinsky, Brick's teacher, and I absolutely loved the interaction. She accuses the Hex of overparenting because she thinks that they're there to try and get Brick some extra attention, to treat him as if he's a little bit special compared to the other kids. And I'm sure over time Miss Rinsky will come to learn that Brick is maybe a little different to a lot of the kids in the class, but she calls them smother. She says, you add an S to mother, you know what you get? Smother. And the thing I love so much about this, and maybe they didn't think of this, but part of me thinks they really did write that line specifically for her, because that is the epitome of Marie Barone. Marie Barone was a smother. Absolutely love her. Marie Barone, of course, being Doris Roberts' character in Everybody Loves Raymond, the show that Patricia Heaton was in. And I just thought that line coming out of her mouth was absolutely beautiful, and I loved it. And they leave, but then they end up having to go back. And this time, Frankie is wearing a proud parent of a cross-country star badge that Sue had given her. And that doesn't really help her argue the case that she's not a smother and that she's not trying to get special treatment for her children. And she has to go back because Miss Rinsky had moved Brick up to the front of the class to give him special treatment. And of course, this isn't what Brick needs. Nobody wants to be singled out like that. And Frankie goes back and Miss Rinsky tells her, I will stop giving him this kind of special treatment if you never volunteer for anything at the school. I was actually quite surprised Frankie didn't do an internal celebration there. All she said was that she thought that she liked the pancake breakfasts or something to that effect. I was expecting her to actually think that was a win-win situation because that's one less thing to stress about, but that's not the way it went. And Frankie then realizes that Brick needs his backpack because it's a security thing, it's a comfort thing. And she ends up going to get it out of the garbage. The garbage truck is there, so she ends up in the back of the garbage truck. And Mike drives up, sees Frankie, and without saying anything, without signaling to her or indicating anything, he just looks straight ahead again and drives on, because this is an absolutely normal situation for Frankie Heck, and I really thoroughly enjoyed that a lot. And then we end with Brick saying that actually he'll keep his new backpack because it's got Shaquille O'Neal on it and it might help him make friends. Brick actively doing something that might help him make friends is a huge character development from season 1. He's still Brick, he's still the same Brick, that's very apparent, but just that little bit of character development where he's actually consciously doing something to try and make friends is different to season 1 Brick, who would happily shove his face in a book and not care about making friends. So I think that that's quite nice. Clearly his social skills group actually did have some benefit. Really great episode, solid start to season 2 of The Middle. Highlights, personal highlights would have to include, well, needless to say, and the colour of Sue's sweatshirt, which might be a ridiculous thing. I love that colour so much. And Doris Roberts referring to Frankie as a smother. I love it. I love it so much. And the way Mike reacted when he saw Frankie raking through the garbage. And Brick's little bit of character development. Loads of great moments. I'm really happy. Back to School is a really brilliant start to the second season of The Middle. I haven't seen this season in quite a few years, and I don't really remember much about this season coming up. I could remember season 1 really well because I've seen it more than most seasons. But this one, I remember bits and pieces, but I'm not going to look ahead. I will just take each episode as they come. But if this episode is anything to go by, then I think it's going to be a real treat. I'm really looking forward to rewatching season 2, looking forward to discovering things that I'd forgotten about. And for now, I'm pleased to say that Back to School is a really brilliant episode of The Middle.